Hello, I'm Eric Snodgrass, Principal Atmospheric Scientist with Nutrient Ag Solutions, and I want to thank you for watching this weekly Ag Weather Update brought to you by the Farm Credit Associations of North Carolina. We're going to take a look back here over the last 3 days of total accumulated precipitation measured mostly by radar here. And this goes through 9 a.m. on Tuesday morning. So we're recording on Tuesday today, just took the holiday, Memorial Day yesterday off. So what we see here is that stretching back over the weekend, we did have some pretty nasty storms that did move through parts of North Carolina. But with those storms, we did see some moisture return. And what I'd like to be doing at the beginning of this video is let's just take a look back at the month of May so that when I give you this long-range forecast coming up, we can keep it into context. So May ranks. Each climate district here has a number in it, and it represents the precipitation rank. We got 129 years of data here. Now, the Mid-Atlantic through the Carolinas we've been discussing has been very, very dry much of this spring. Now, early in spring, extremely wet, coming out of winter wet. But then we can see here that most reporting stations in and around North Carolina here having a top 15 or top 20 driest go of it here in the month of May. Now, if you think about what caused that, and this is going to be a theme throughout this presentation today, it was this high pressure cell. Now, that high pressure cell that you see in place here, so what you're looking at is a pressure anomaly map for the month of May, came out of Canada, which means it came from this direction and slid over toward the Carolinas. Now, that is much different when the Bermuda high, which we're going to talk about again, comes out of the east and hits us in that direction. So entirely different setup with this high pressure cell here. But it was what brought in the dry conditions and even at times the cooler conditions. I'll show you that in a few moments. But the latest drought monitor, which was released last week, has now shown us to be getting here into the second stage of drought over in parts of North Carolina. And what I want to show you is how much the drought class has changed in the last 2 months. So we've seen up to a 2-class degradation just in the last 8 weeks. While drought has been kind of beat back here in the southern plains through the high plains, and this is where most of that moisture return has been. That big blocking high sitting in this area. Can you just see it now? Those high pressure cells, they have clockwise flow around them like this. So what did it do? It returned the moisture here, and it kept us drier over on the coast. That's a key part of the dynamics of these shifting high pressure cells. Now from there, let's take a look at soil moisture. And this is the top 4 inches. So we're really just looking here at how the rains last week kind of beat back at the top, like kind of flash drought scenario we had. And where those rains missed in parts of South Carolina, right here along the border, and then getting into the central part of North Carolina, you can see that's an area where we're still dealing with not just drought here at the top level of the soil, but also, in fact, let's just go down and look at it much deeper here. So this is the resource I use. Let's go down the top 100 centimeters. And now we can still see that this region is showing up with a deeper moisture profile deficit. So we're going to come back and talk more about this and rains that are coming here in just a few moments. I do want to point out for those corn and soybean farmers, look at the Eastern Corn Belt. Look at the Central and Western Corn Belt. Areas here still suffering from moisture loss in their soil profile as well. Temperatures, it was cool. And that was because that high pressure came from this direction. It wasn't the ones that come from the east. And we saw overall a cooler month, but we do have some changes coming from that pretty soon here. Now, over the next 7 days, our evaporation rates are going to be relatively low. But I wanted to show you this whole map because the heat that is in the west, giving us some very high evaporation rates, for example, in the Central Valley of California, the Columbia Basin, then spreading into the northern plains where rates may go 1.5 inches to over 3 inches in some places. We will be replacing these low evaporation rates with higher rates as the heat starts to spread to the east. And I'd like to show you that first of all. So let's talk temperature first. Today's high temperatures, it's a cool one. We got a cool start to this week. All the heat's in the west, but watch. As we go through this week, there's Wednesday's high temperatures compared to normal, getting into Thursday, and then Friday. We have a lot of days this week where we're going to be seeing our highs here due to extra cloud cover and some precipitation, where we're going to be struggling to get out of the upper 70s into the low 80s, where the northern plains are going to be possibly going over to triple-digit heat. Well, as we get into next weekend, there's Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. We now start to see our temperatures coming back to more seasonable for this time of year with greater heat to our north and to our into the northeast. From there, let's just show you what's going to keep the temperatures cool this week. We're watching today a low-pressure system develop right here where the Ohio, the Mississippi, and Missouri come together, and right here getting into lower Mississippi River Valley. Through this afternoon and this evening, we could see some scattered showers across North Carolina. But it's going to be into the day on Tuesday that chance increases. So here's Tuesday now getting into Wednesday. I walked you through a whole day there pretty quickly, didn't I? Tuesday evening, getting now into Wednesday morning, afternoon, and evening, our chances for showers and storms start to increase. And that's as that low moves into the north and east. Well, the main front associated with that swipes through us Thursday into Friday. So you can see our rain chances increase by the time we get out here to Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Now here's Wednesday evening, getting into the day on Thursday. Now as I rock back and forth, I just want to reiterate a point here. Can you see how the flow is generally doing that while this low comes through like this? There's a high pressure cell that is parked off of the coast. It's over here, okay? That high pressure cell sitting in this area. Now that's going to be critical to the longer range forecast. And let's get into that and try to understand it. So upper level winds first. This is where the story begins. We see there's a trough sweeping through late this week. And it's that trough that helps the upper levels produce the precipitation over us. I'll show you how much in a moment. But then a pretty sizable ridge develops. That's the return of the heat to the east, while the trough comes into the west. This is next Monday. As we then go out into next Tuesday, Wednesday timeframe, there's going to be a larger high pressure cell sitting right in through here. This is more of the Atlantic variety. This is the Bermuda high. And we need to ask ourselves some big questions about what that high pressure cell is going to do. Because if it sits just off of our coast, which you can see it is right here, that's going to just give us a stormy pattern. It's going to open up the Gulf, transport the moisture as we get into the middle of this month. So let's come back to that in a few moments. But I do want to show you first that day 5 through 10. So we're now looking at here June 6th through the 10th. We see the return of above average temperatures. And then you notice that out here to middle of the month, all right, this is what the jet stream level is doing. Watch with me. Trough here, ridge there, trough here. Now, this is the upper level flow pattern. When I keep talking about that Bermuda high, it's not a jet stream level high. It's a near surface high. This is jet stream first, okay? By the time we get to mid-June, the models, both the European and the GFS, want to put a ridge right here, running from New Mexico to Manitoba. Now, what's going to be critical about this is to see throughout the month of June if the ridge is going to be here or if it's going to be farther to the west there, or in the east, maybe along the 95th meridian right here. Now, that is what I've been attempting to try to forecast for the jet stream level pattern for this upcoming June, July, August time period. Where is the ridge going to be? Now, right now, at the middle of June, it's sitting here. And we're going to ask ourselves what that is going to do to the placement and position of the Bermuda high. And I'll put that whole story together for you in just a few moments. But what it does first is it starts to return the above average temperatures. You see the cooler weather that you see here, this is primarily due to storms. But over in the Carolinas through Virginia, I do expect to see more normal, early summer-like temperatures resuming. And it's also there in the European model. Okay, very consistent model forecast through the middle part of June. But it's the precip we got to get to next. So let's go here. This is just zoomed in European model, and we're going to watch that first system through Tuesday, getting into Wednesday. Now remember, I said the chances for our storms increasing on Wednesday is here, but the main frontal boundary is back farther to the west. It doesn't get to us until you get to the day on Thursday, so it's parked right in through here. Now I know you're looking at this and just seeing splotches of green. That's because we've transitioned into summer mode. It's convection, it's thunderstorms. And it appears that getting into Thursday evening, coming over the Appalachian Mountains, and then into Friday, we're going to get our chances for storms. Now, after this, what's going to happen is the big high is going to try to park off the coast. And as I go from Friday into the weekend and then into early next week, do you see how we just keep getting these flashes of green here? You see that high is trying to return some moisture here, but it's going to primarily try to keep it, on diurnal thunderstorm activity through, diurnal just means daily, thunderstorm activity through much of next week. You just see flashes of green every day. That's how the model is indicating a transition toward a summer pattern. Now, total accumulated precipitation, let's just add all this up. So this is, look, through Tuesday into Wednesday, that's when the chances of rain increase through Wednesday. Now, as we get into the day on Thursday and the front swipes through, right now the European model is attempting to bring in anywhere between a half of an inch to, in some locations, over 2 inches of rainfall. It's going to be thunderstorm driven, which means it will be local. But then after that, see how it just keeps adding along the coast right in through here? That would be those diurnal thunderstorms into early next week and beyond, with potentially very heavy rain just off the coast. But I went ahead and showed you the operational model run all the way out to day 10. And you can tell that through this next time period, this next 10 days, adding up what's coming Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then into early next week, we could be really beating back some of our drought concerns. Now, models begin to deviate a bit out to week 2. You see, with the high-pressure cell parked here, they're trying to return moisture all along the Gulf Coast into the Mid-South, up through the Ohio River Valley, and then getting over here to the Mid-Atlantic. The GFS, though, doesn't. Now, which model do we choose? I'll be honest, the European's been the better performer, and I've shown lots of times the statistics for this. The GFS, I think, doesn't quite have the position of that Bermuda high down, and I do think we have a stormier pattern going into mid-June. Now, beyond that, let's get this extended forecast going, because next week in our forecast video, which will be released on Monday, I'm going to have some new long-range information. And what I want to show you is first the MJO. Now, the MJO is often a very good indicator of our pattern if the MJO stays at high amplitude and sweeps around the graphic like this. Now, again, high amplitude means getting far away from the middle. This circle in the middle is called the null space, where the MJO is hard to really decipher where it is. And I'm just going to tell you something, the European model doesn't know what to do with the MJO. And on top of that, when we look at the integral of zonal winds throughout the depth of the atmosphere, we're picking up some momentum around the equator as of late, but no strong signals like we had back in March and April, where we had weak winds here and stronger winds in the northern branches of the jet stream. So I'm telling you, this transition into summer momentum pattern isn't giving us any longer-term clues. So what is and how are the models handling this? Let's now get into that week 3, week 4 time period. So this map, the blues and the yellows and reds are not telling you about temperature or precipitation. It's actually pressure patterns. And as I slide through the month of June here, what I'm noticing is that the models continue to keep higher than normal atmospheric pressure in this area. And that's just going to keep the flow around it doing something like this. And it just lasts. This is through mid-June, now getting out there into June 3rd week, 4th week. I mean, we're all the way out here at the end of June. And there just seems to be higher atmospheric pressure that extends all the way here over toward the East Coast. So if we just follow the lines, the flow in the low levels is going to try to do this. And what that means in the models, well, let me show you. Why don't we look at the temperature side of it first? How about just a 30-day average from now to the 4th of July? You see how we're cooler along the coast and warmer farther to the north? Well, the reason for this is better seen when I show you the 30 days of precipitation. Now, the model is just going after heavy rains, lots of storms between now and the 4th of July. And it continues it. I can just keep this going out here. This is now into early July all the way to July 15th. Because of the placement of that high, it really wants to just be, well, convectively overturning a lot of storms. Where's it dry? The West, the Midwest. How much do I trust it? Well, with this information combined with this information, how in the world can I really, really trust this? But if the Bermuda high stays where it is, this would be the end result. And that's why I started off talking about high pressure cells. So let's now just get some background information to prep us for next week. This is a time series. In fact, let me just expand this and blow this up a little bit. I chose the Mid-Atlantic Basin, average temperatures June through August. And we're going back to 1895 here. This is a long data set provided by NOAA. I put on here in this blue line the trend over the last 30 years. We're up about 1.5 degrees, okay? Now, the question is, this summer, is it going to be one of these down here or one of these up here? Here's some preliminary answers to that. I went back and I grabbed the hottest years over the last 70 years, and I decided to make a composite map. Here they are. This is the hottest June through August time period. Now, our upstream factor is right here. If we see big ridges building in the Gulf of Alaska and troughs here, the ridges tend to extend somewhere over the 95th meridian east. And a big ridge in place right there shuts us down for moisture and brings in the heat. Now again, this is June, July, and August. Here's another part of this. These same years, June through August, same years, tended to be warm here and cold off the west coast, with warmest conditions right there in the ocean south of Alaska. Now, why I bring this up is because this is what our current ocean temperature configuration looks like. And we do have some warmth here and cold water there. I told someone this last week. If you just handed me this map on May 30th and said, Eric, forecast only on one metric, ocean temperatures, what summer was going to be, what I would tell them is, inside this area, there is risk for summer heat and drought. That would be it. Despite what the near-term models are saying, and they're bringing in all that moisture, I would just say we have risk getting into July, into August and September of having drought issues. Now, once we get into September, we have to then focus on hurricanes, and they can erase drought in a heartbeat. But this has me worried about summer heat and summer drought conditions, not just in the Carolinas, but stretching all the way back possibly to the Rocky Mountains. There's another part to it as well. See the cool waters here? Whoops, let's try drawing this time. See the cool waters there? That's part of the negative Indian Ocean dipole. Now, probably never heard me talk about that much, but if the Indian Ocean dipole stays negative, that is also supportive of warmer conditions and hotter and drier conditions, I should say, in that area I just circled, which certainly impacts us. Now, see the cool water here with the warm water to the south and warm water to the north? That's part of what's called the negative Atlantic multidecadal oscillation. It's just another indicator that we do have the risk this summer of going over hotter, drier. Now, I have low confidence in this. Too many moving pieces. And maybe one of the biggest ones is what I showed you at the beginning. We've developed drought here lately, but the biggest drought area is here, extending into the northern plains. That could be the one offsetting factor that takes that ridge and shoves it there, and we get flow like this in summer. And if that occurs, then this will not be a hot, dry summer. It'll be the opposite. It'll be stormy. It'll be cooler. Well, cooler with respect to normal. It'll still be hot. It's summer, for crying out loud. But this is what I'll be watching most carefully. Now, if you feel as though what I just showed you are two entirely contradicting pictures, that's exactly what I wanted you to hear. One of these two features is going to dominate. And throughout the month of June, we're going to decipher which it is, and we're going to see which one's going to be the most dominant and therefore affect our long-range forecast. And we get our first big clue to that next Monday. So I look forward to talking to you then. Have a good week, and we'll see you then. Thanks.